Today on the Transatlantic Says podcast, I'll be discussing my weight loss journey, my favorite digital audio players, and a whole lot more, so go ahead and stick around. I hate myself so much.
I don't know about you, but going from something super crunchy sounding like a carbon microphone to a modern condenser, it just feels so comfortable, like putting on a nice well-worn hoodie and reading a book and drinking a cup of coffee. It's like this auditory resolution, just based on the sound of a microphone, like a proper cadence in music. That's what I'm hearing. Anyway, with a note of it sounding comfortable, let's talk about what I have been testing. This is that I said you are currently listening to it. This is the Jay-Z, I almost called it a Neumann. This is the Jay-Z Mike's Vintage 67. Can you guess what kind of sound they are going for based on the model number? My understanding is they are going for a Neumann, hello Neumann, U67 sound profile. I don't have the comparison of U67 versus Vintage 67 done yet, but after using this quite a bit and having all of my music recordings done, all of those demos completed, I have to say I am really enjoying this thing because it does offer that detailed sound, but it's not overhyped sounding. It doesn't sound overboosted. It is just balanced and enjoyable to listen to. I have found myself quite enjoying it. It does have some quirks with the build. Where the XLR port is, I need to have an extender so I can actually place the microphone. Not a huge fan of that. Also, in my box of doom, I had to use a stereo bar so I could get the microphone away from the mount so I could actually connect it. So there are some issues with this. And I looked this up. This goes for $1,200 now. I had to go look at the receipt from when I bought this. I bought this almost 4 years ago in 2020. I got it for $600. The reason I was able to get it for that price is Jay-Z Mics seems to have a sale on one of their series pretty much all year round. So you could probably still get this for $600, and at $600, I think it sounds pretty darn good. That is still a boatload of money, but it's nice sounding. That's all I'll say right now. I am running that into a different preamp. I was in voice chat on Podcastage last night, and somebody mentioned the Neve Portico 5017. That's another device I bought in 2020. Can you tell I actually had income at that point, and instead of paying myself, I acquired gear to cover in the future. Portico 5017, that's what I'm running this into, and then through the X8. That's it for what I have been testing. Let us just jump right into what you had to say, and we'll talk about what I said we're going to talk about. First comment comes from David Kennerly. He says, Bandrew, it's been a number of months since I've seen your podcast, and immediately I see that you've lost weight. Ozempic? You look great. David, thank you very much for those incredibly kind words. I really do appreciate that. To answer your question, no. I am not on Ozempic. I have not had any medical interventions. This entire weight loss journey that I have been on has been 3 years and running. I have been working on getting healthy for 3 long years. People just didn't notice for the first couple of years because it wasn't very noticeable. My face was still incredibly bloated and overweight looking, so no, I have not had any medical intervention. I walk 4 miles every single day. I do 200 push-ups every single day, and I log every single thing that I eat and calorie count and make sure I am consuming a relatively healthy diet that isn't just garbage. That's why I sing songs about how I miss pizza pretty much every single week on Podcastage, because I don't eat pizza anymore, except on special occasions, maybe twice a year. And I used to have emergency pizzas in my freezer. Go into the Podcastage Discord server. Anybody who was around 2019, 2020, they will tell you I would not shut the heck up about frozen emergency pizzas in the freezer. So when you get home from work and you need a pizza, you can just throw it in the oven and you're good to go in 20 minutes. I haven't had a frozen pizza in 3 years. The last slice of pizza I had was 3-4 months ago, I think, which is crazy because I used to have it bi-weekly maybe. And I don't know if that's 2 times a week or every 2 weeks. There's no way of knowing. It was just garbage in nonstop. But let me elaborate on this. I have not had any medical intervention, and the reason I have not is because I have the physical ability to put in the work. I have the physical ability to exercise, and I am absolutely stubborn enough to make those difficult choices and changes to my diet. The way I knew I was that stubborn is because I gave up drinking cold turkey, just walked away from it, made that massive life change, and I was able to keep up with it almost 10 years now. We just hit 9 years on the 2nd of January, so I know that I'm stubborn enough to make that kind of choice. So I was willing to do that, and instead of going the easy route, I chose to go the much more difficult route of, okay, this is going to be a long, arduous journey. I know I am going to not see results for quite a while. I didn't see results for a year of exercising. It's because I was still eating like garbage. But once I started logging what I ate and I continued to exercise and up the amount of exercise that I did, mixing that with the change to my diet, then I started to see changes. The reason I think that was important is because if my underlying behavior and my underlying relationship with food and exercise had not changed, and I went the route of medical intervention, whether it be that Ozempic stuff, which I've heard horror stories about, or whether it be some kind of surgical procedure, what would have happened? Maybe it would have worked for a little bit, but if it was some kind of medicine, I would likely be stuck on that medicine the rest of my life. Or if it was some kind of medical procedure, chances are my habits would continue, my poor eating, my poor exercise regimen would continue, and eventually my habits would overpower whatever kind of surgical procedure had been done. So by working to change the root cause of what was causing me to be unhealthy, I believe and I hope it will lead to a much more permanent solution or a much more permanent correction in my health. That's the hope, at least. I have no idea. I am not some kind of dietitian or health guru. I'm just a dope who started walking because he needed to get outside of these 4 walls during lockdown. That was the initial impetus to getting out and walking. It wasn't to get healthier physically. It was to get healthier mentally and have that separation from personal life to the day job. That walking time was essentially my commute time, so it allowed me to differentiate relaxation and work. But I was giving this a lot of thought over the last couple of weeks because I was talking to somebody about how I would walk every single day, even when it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and I am freezing the entire time. I have a coat on, I have a scarf on, I have a second jacket on, I have a beanie on, I look silly. But I go out and walk every single day, rain, sleet, or snow. I will be out there walking. And they asked me why I did this, and I wasn't able to verbalize or identify why I do it or what I enjoy about it. But after giving it a bit of thought over the last couple of weeks, I think that I finally have an answer. And the answer is, I think that it's good to be uncomfortable. I think that it's good to put yourself in some uncomfortable situations. And I think it's really good for you to force yourself to do stuff that you may not want to do. The reason being, sure, maybe it builds character, I have no idea, but I have found that after putting myself in uncomfortable situations, whether it be walking in 10, 15 degree weather, it makes every other hurdle, every other obstacle that I encounter seem a bit less of a burden. All of those issues and all of those stressors that you encounter on a day-to-day basis just got a little bit easier to deal with, whether it be giving somebody bad news at work, whether it be an interpersonal conflict. I'm not saying they're easy. I still struggle with them tremendously, and they are still difficult. I still don't like giving people bad news at work. I still don't like interpersonal conflict. But when those issues arise, they seem like less of a mountain and more of a hill. So they're easier to approach, and I find them less stressful to deal with. It kind of reminds me of some people that I knew in the body mod community, because when I was playing in metal bands, there are a lot of people in the body mod community. Some of the people that I knew would suspend. If you don't know what that is, they take fishing hooks, they file off the barbs, and put those hooks through their skin, and they hang from those hooks. It seems impossible, it seems excruciatingly painful, but people do that. And when I asked them, why would you do such a thing? Number one was the endorphins. Apparently, it feels very good after a while. Initially, there's going to be a tremendous amount of pain, but once they overcome that pain, once the pain abates, then they get this endorphic high. But then I got this explanation from my friend that hanging from hooks in your skin seems like an absolutely impossible task. It doesn't seem like that should be possible. And when you first get up there, it is not possible. It is excruciatingly painful. But then you overcome that. And once you have accomplished that, or once you have gone through that, then your day-to-day issues just seem so much easier because you have already done something that is impossible. You have put a hook through your skin in your back and hung from it. That is impossible. That should not be something that you do. I do not advocate anybody do this, but to the body mod community, more power to you. And I understood that mentality. I would never be able to do that. That seems impossible. So if somebody has the mental ability to overcome that hurdle, every other issue in their life is going to seem significantly less daunting. So what I am doing is far less extreme than that. I am not doing any kind of body modification. I am not putting myself in excruciating physical pain to force myself to have some kind of mental catharsis and overcome that. I am just walking in 15-degree weather. I am walking when it is snowing. I am walking when it is raining. I am doing it because, yes, it forces me to exercise and be healthier, but also putting myself in that uncomfortable situation, that makes all the other issues in my life seem ever so slightly easier to deal with, and it makes them a lot less stressful and a lot less burdensome on my mind because I have other stuff to focus on and worry about. I don't have the time or energy to sit there and stress out for hours and hours upon each thing. So there you go. That is my long diatribe about my weight loss journey, how I did it, why I do it, and all of that. Hopefully that answered your question. Short answer, no, not Ozempic. Thank you for the comment, David. I appreciate you. Next, we have a comment from Vern, and he says, "That's funny. I was thinking of taking a break from listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot every day, and I think I've been having information overload lately. I was planning to do it last month or this month. Probably should do it soon." Vern, thank you very much for the comment. Information overload. That is a perfect description of why I went on the podcast detox, and I think that's a perfect description of what a lot of people feel nowadays. Information overload. Whether that information be good or bad, I don't think it's healthy to have this constant stream of information 24/7 being fed into your brain nonstop. Maybe it's all good information, but I don't think we were meant to have new information and data constantly being fed to us. So Vern, I 100% suggest giving it a shot and taking a month off from podcasts. And anyone else who is listening who feels overwhelmed by this constant stream of data, whether it be YouTube videos, whether it be podcasts, whether it be Discord or social media, take a break, take a step back and unplug from it. Just live in the real world amongst your friends, amongst your family, amongst your coworkers, and have real world interactions as opposed to just people in your head talking. And I mean through earbuds. Through earbuds is what I'm talking about. This is kind of what I was dealing with a couple of years ago when I went on that full 1990s kick where I only tried to use items that were around in the 1990s. That entire exercise was nothing more than an excuse to unplug from modern society, because modern society, we have social media, we have text messaging, we have email, we have cell phones, we have smartwatches. And with all of that, we do have this constant stream of data and information being fed to us. But we also have this felt social obligation to be informed about everything. Oh, you don't know what's going on over there? What, you don't care about that? You don't care about those people? No, I just don't have the mental capacity to worry about everything. So that is what I was trying to do with that experiment. Live in the 90s because times were still slower then. I love the 90s because we had this sense of optimism. Technology was moving forward. We were getting the internet, but it hadn't been corrupted yet. It hadn't become what it is nowadays. It was still optimistic. And that's what I loved about it. And you didn't have that obligation to shut up outside with your loud car. You should feel that obligation. But you didn't have this obligation to know everything going on in the world. There wasn't 24/7 news. There was an hour of news at night. That was it. There wasn't social media, so you didn't feel the need to stay up to date with all of your friends and what they were doing every single day, what they ate for supper, where they went on vacation. You would just find out when you met up with them. Maybe I'll do that again because I think that was really healthy. Well, kind of. I don't think it's healthy to live delusionally and think, hey, it's 1990. I'm going to go get a newspaper from 1992. I don't think that is healthy, and that's kind of where I was. Just this complete reversion to 1990 living. It reminds me of this episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon Cooper is extremely unhappy with all the change, so he reverts back to living like it's 2003 or something. That's kind of what I did, but I went back to living like it was the 1990s. I just like the idea of living more in the moment and less connected. Vern, that long diatribe, another long diatribe that I went on to answer your question or respond to you, I highly support your decision to unplug from podcasts for a month and live in the moment. Enjoy everything else around you. Enjoy the people around you. Enjoy reading a book. Enjoy a cup of coffee. I say go for it. Thank you very much. Next, we have a comment from Tim, and he says, I'm pretty convinced that it doesn't make much sense asking the manufacturer, hey, does this mic sound properly? People buy mics at the market, so there's the real product. Who cares what company's engineers invented? We're interested what we'll get, how the mass production sounds like. Tim, thank you very much for the comment. I agree with you completely. The items that I use in my videos, whether it be for review or whether it be for demo, ought to be representative of what is available for purchase from the standard authorized dealer. It should be representative. It should be identical to what comes off of the production line. And that's what I was asking about last week. I wasn't suggesting contacting the company and saying, that idealistic idea of the gear that you had, that perfect representation that is impossible to produce at cost, can you send me that and I'll review that? That's not what I was asking. I was just asking if you thought it would be appropriate for me to contact a company and say, can you verify that the item that I am buying is in full working order, just so I know I am giving people an accurate representation of this gear? That's what I was asking about. So I just wanted to include that and clarify and also say, I agree. I should be using gear that is representative of what is available for the average consumer from an authorized dealer. That is why I buy a lot of the gear that I do. I get to see what the customer service experience is like, and I get to avoid any kind of potential conflicts of interest. I get to avoid the perception of conflicts of interest by buying the gear from an AD as opposed to buying from the company, as opposed to getting stuff sent from the company. To be transparent, I do still get some stuff sent from companies who I have dealt with and I trust because they don't meddle at all. They just send it and just leave it be. If I cover it, cool. If I don't, cool. They don't ask me, hey, when's the video coming out? So the companies that I still accept stuff from, I have dealt with, and I have learned to trust the people that work there to not try to influence me in the slightest. Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate it. Next, we have a comment from Murray's Tech Time 8530, and he says, do not buy from company and tell them it will be reviewed. You need to check QC. The once in a while not checking everything because it did not occur to you to test something is normal and does not nullify the review. This would be understood by your subscribers because you are being a normal human. We all make mistakes. We need to see you make mistakes to see you are being honest to us. Keep up the great reviews and videos. Thanks a bunch. Murray, thank you very much for the comment. I think you raised some really interesting points here that I had not considered. First off, I agree completely. It is good for me to function as another point of QC. I'm not going to buy multiple of every single item and do proper QC because that's the company's job and I simply cannot afford that. I can't buy 3 JZ vintage 67s and see, okay, are they consistent? But having some level of QC and identifying, okay, this is wrong, that is good information to have. And as I mentioned last week, when I do encounter an issue, that is great because then I get to learn what the customer service experience is like with that microphone company or that gear company, and I can convey that in the video. What I hadn't considered in your comment is the fact that by me making mistakes, that shows that I am being honest with you. That is very interesting, and I had not considered that. But I am glad that I am able to make mistakes and learn from them, and through those mistakes and through those errors, I am able to learn and update my testing procedures so that I can make my future videos even better. So now I know every dynamic mic, not ribbon mic. I'm not going to risk ribbon microphones because I just don't, unless they are active ribbons. But with dynamics, now I know that's something else that I need to test. So through those errors, I'm not necessarily sure that it proves I'm being honest. Maybe admitting that I made the error or that I made the mistake shows that I am being honest. But I am just happy that I caught the mistake eventually and now I am able to learn. That's something else that I need to do. So Murray, thank you very much for the comment. I really do appreciate it. Next, we have a comment from David Horth, and he says, Hi-Bye Digital M300 DAP for your podcasting addiction. David, thank you very much for the recommendation. I went ahead and looked up the M300. That's a bit bigger than I am looking for in my DAP. I went ahead and pulled out all of the digital audio players that I have, and I will shoot B-roll for this, so if you want to see that, go jump over to the YouTube channel and watch it. But I started back in 2019 with the FiiO FX1221. This is the first one I got because it looks kind of like an old iPod. It has a very similar control interface to the original iPod, but I found the UI to be very clunky, very slow, and just not the best, and that led to me not using it too much. It just wasn't enjoyable to use over long periods of time. The headphone amp was fine. Lately, I found that the headphone amp does not really do well with low impedance IEMs. But for something like the HD650s, it was tolerable. That was the first DAP that I had. Then after that, I jumped to a Hi-Bye. The Hi-Bye or Hi-Bee R3. I got this because I wanted the touchscreen interface. The headphone amp in it is really nice. It is just kinda chunky for what I am looking for. Functions great. The screen is beautiful. The battery life is fine. The headphone amp is fine. Drives my IEMs no problem. Just when I'm out and walking, just a bit bigger than I want in my pocket. Then we go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of price. The SanDisk ClipJam MP3. This goes for $20, I think. This offers the basic podcast functionality I want. It has a separate podcast section. It has Audible integration even, so I can listen to Audible books on here. It works great. It is exactly what I want in terms of podcast and audiobook functionality. The issue, the headphone amp is garbage. There is this constant underlying hiss when I'm using my IEM, so it is not a good listening experience. For podcasts, I will suffer through that because it's necessary for me to, but when it comes to music, I cannot abide, and also it's limited to MP3. It does not have any lossless playback functionality, so this is solely a podcast digital audio player for me. And the last app that I have is the Channeling M0. This is the one that I held up last week. It is a tiny little thing. It is a bit on the thick side, but as far as the headphone amp goes, it is fantastic, drives my IEMs, no extraneous noise. The UI is more than intuitive. It is easy to navigate. It works well enough. The one big downside here is the battery life, as you would expect out of something so small, although the SanDisk has an insane battery life, and it's smaller, so I don't know, maybe it's just that it plays high-res lossless, and it has to drive a more powerful headphone amp. But that's the one downside to this, and the no podcast playback functionality. So that is my DAP process, that is my DAP journey. I really want something like the Channeling M0 to have podcast functionality. Perhaps one day we'll get it. Maybe Apple will release a new iPod Nano that does lossless and syncs to Apple Music. Oh, that would be wonderful. Come on, Apple. Come on. Good headphone amp, lossless playback, podcast functionality. I will give you my money. I will continue to be an Apple user. Do it. I triple dog dare you. Now they have to do it. I triple dog dared them. Apple, Tim Apple, come on. Get with it. You've been dogged. What? Is that what it's called when somebody triple dog dares you? You've been dogged, man. I don't know. Now let's jump to value for value because this is a V for V podcast. What that means, I don't put anything behind a paywall. I offer all the value that I can. If you get anything out of this show, you return the value in the format that you find appropriate and that you're able to, whether it be time, talent, or treasure. First, we have $5 from Liberty Dude, and he says, that you already knew the answer is buy off the open market and maybe get a lemon is why you are the most trusted reviewer in your niche. Thanks for being you. Liberty, that is so insanely kind of you. Thank you for that compliment. It really does mean a lot. We have so many good reviewers out here, though. As far as niches go, I would say the audio side of things is pretty gosh darn respectable. And there are so many trustworthy people. We have Sound Speeds, we have Curtis Judd, we have Booth Junkie, we have Audio Hotline, we got Bark, we got Pags. We got so many great people. We are fortunate. We are much more fortunate in the audio realm than many other niches. But still, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And you always say such kind things, and I appreciate them deeply. So thank you. Next, we have €10 from Frubo SSG, and they say, another chance to practice a rolling R, Danke, by Rudi. Thank you so much for the €10. I will give this a shot. Is it Rudi or is it Rudi? I am not sure which pronunciation is appropriate, but I gave you both. Rudi, Rudi. Thank you so much for the €10. Thank you for the support, and hopefully I I can't pronounce correctly. I will pronounce your name correctly, hopefully. Thank you very much. And finally, we have €25 from TechMed Raina Richter. He says, Danke, hey Bandrew, this was a perfect way to pronounce my forename. Thank you so much, and thank you for putting the film into my head, seeing you walking around your flat, exercising my name. Raina, thank you very much for the €25, and thank you for the constant support. That literally is how it was happening. I would be making coffee and just say, Raina, just practicing it, just trying to make sure I was getting it right. So the fact that you enjoyed that makes me happy. And thank you so much for the constant support. You are an absolute legend. That is it for this episode. I don't have any Ask Bandrew. So hey, if you have one, go ahead, jump over to askbandrew.com. askbandrew.com and send in an audio, video, or text question, and I'll do my best to answer it. Thank you very much for coming by and watching and listening. I really do appreciate you spending your time with me. You could be doing anything. You could be on your 1-month podcast detox like Vern. And I support you doing that. Take a break from this podcast. Take a break from all podcasts. Focus on you. Focus on your mental health and unplug. Get that detox from this constant stream of nagging information just wearing you down. Go forth, rock and roll, live free, and die hard. What? I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Anyway, I am rambling. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be back. I will be talking with you. I love you. Bye-bye. Whoa, whoa, boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.